Have you ever wondered what secrets Hollywood keeps behind closed doors? What private journeys some of our most famous celebrities had to take before the spotlight found them? Today, we're pulling back the curtain on a side of fame that's rarely spoken about. In this video, we'll uncover 15 black celebrities who were assigned male at birth, but now live proudly as women. Their stories are filled with courage, transformation, and hidden battles the public never knew. Some of them you see on your TV screens every day, yet their most personal truths remained private for years. Others built entire careers while quietly, carrying a secret that the world would only discover later. These aren't just names on a list. They are powerful lives shaped by resilience, heartbreak, and ultimate triumph. From Hollywood stars to activists, from models to musicians, each story will keep you hooked as we reveal how they transformed not only their bodies but their destinies. Stay with us until the very end, because the last few names on this list will shock you. Their private journeys are unlike anything you've ever heard. Number 1. Laverne Cox. Laverne Cox was assigned male at birth on May 29, 1972, in Mobile, Alabama, USA. Born to a single mother, she was raised with her identical twin brother, Monsieur Lamar, who later became a musician and artist. Her father was absent during much of her early life, and her mother's strength and resilience shaped the foundation of who Laverne would become. From a very young age, Laverne felt different. As a child, she was often bullied for being feminine. Teachers warned her mother that Laverne might end up in trouble if she didn't change her ways. But deep inside, Laverne knew she wasn't meant to live as male. This inner conflict turned into depression, and she even admitted she once attempted suicide at the age of 11. Her story took a new turn when she pursued the arts. At the Alabama School of Fine Arts, and later at Marymount Manhattan College in New York, she immersed herself in dance and acting. These stages became not only her career path, but also the safe spaces where her true identity could slowly emerge. Laverne eventually embraced her womanhood, transitioning socially and medically. She has spoken about hormone therapy, but she prefers to keep many medical details private, reminding the world that trans people deserve dignity and privacy. What matters most is her truth. She is a woman who fought for her identity against the odds. Her rise to fame came through the hit Netflix series Orange is the New Black, where she played Sophia Bursette, a groundbreaking role that made her the first openly transgender person nominated for a Primetime Emmy Award. Beyond acting, she has become a strong voice for LGBTQ+ rights, gracing magazine covers and delivering powerful speeches. As for her personal life, Laverne has kept relationships discreet, though she has been linked to musician Kyle Draper in the past. Her life is filled with interesting turns, from growing up in a deeply conservative town to walking the red carpets of Hollywood. Suspense lies in her resilience. Every struggle transformed into strength, every secret into a shining truth. Number 2. Michaela Jae Rodriguez. Michaela Jae Rodriguez, better known as MJ Rodriguez, was assigned male at birth on January 7, 1991, in Newark, New Jersey. She was raised by her loving Puerto Rican mother and African-American father in a modest family home. From childhood, MJ's parents noticed she had an extraordinary talent for music and performance. Her father introduced her to church choirs, while her mother encouraged her artistic side. Yet behind that encouragement, MJ carried a secret. Born as a boy, she often felt trapped, yearning to live as the girl she knew herself to be. As a child, she prayed every night for God to make her a girl by the morning. Those prayers, though unanswered in the way she imagined, built in her a resilience that would later define her. MJ's gift for performance blossomed early. She studied at the prestigious Berklee College of Music, training in musical theater. At just 14, she performed in youth theater productions and soon earned recognition on Broadway, playing Angel in Rent. Still, she was navigating her transition quietly, working toward aligning her inner truth with the person the world saw, her. transformation involved hormone therapy and her public coming out as a transgender woman in 2012. From that moment, her career faced challenges. Roles were scarce, prejudice was common, but her determination never wavered. Then came the breakthrough. Pose. As Blanca Evangelista, the nurturing mother of her house in Pose, MJ's performance won hearts worldwide. In 2022, she made history as the first openly transgender actress to win a Golden Globe Award. On a personal note, MJ has been open about her relationship with Steven, a loving partner who supports her journey. She often shares glimpses of their life on social media, showing a side of herself that is tender, grounded, and deeply human. What makes MJ's story suspenseful is not just the transformation from male to female, but the transformation from rejection to triumph. Born in Newark, once a child praying for change, she rose to become a beacon of possibility, proof that dreams and identity can survive against all odds. Number 3. Dominique Jackson. Dominique Brebnor, known to the world as Dominique Jackson, was assigned male at birth on March 20, 1975, in Scarborough, Tobago. Born into a conservative family, she faced hardship from the very beginning. Her childhood was marked by rejection, not only from peers, but also from relatives who struggled to accept her femininity. Raised primarily by her grandmother, Dominique lived in constant conflict. Society saw her as a boy, but her soul knew she was a girl. As a teenager, Dominique endured bullying and abuse. She described her youth as a time of deep pain, filled with moments where she felt invisible in her own home. By 1993, she made the brave choice to move to the United States in search of freedom and identity. But the path was far from easy. Struggling with homelessness, she often slept on park benches while fighting for a space to exist authentically. Her turning point came when she discovered the ballroom scene in New York, a vibrant underground culture where LGBTQ+ people created families, called houses. There, Dominique blossomed, finally celebrated as the woman she always was. In time, she underwent hormone therapy and transition procedures, aligning her body with her truth. Dominique's life shifted into the spotlight with her starring role as Electra Abundance in FX's hit show Pose. Her commanding presence, her razor-sharp lines, and her powerful portrayal of ballroom royalty made her unforgettable. Suddenly, the girl once mocked in Tobago was a global icon. Her personal life also reflects resilience. Dominique married her longtime partner, Al Jackson, in 2016, though the couple later separated. Still, she continues to share her journey openly, using her platform to advocate for trans rights and inspire those still searching for acceptance. What makes Dominique's story gripping is the suspense of survival. A child born male in a small Caribbean island, cast out and abandoned, who transformed her pain into triumph. From homelessness to Hollywood, her journey is a living testimony that authenticity, no matter how delayed, always finds its way to shine. Number 4. Angelica Ross. Angelica Ross was assigned male at birth on November 28, 1980, in Racine, Wisconsin. Raised in a deeply religious household, she grew up with strict expectations from her parents. Her father wanted a strong son, while her mother leaned on church traditions. But Angelica's spirit was different. Even as a child, she gravitated toward dolls and dresses, a truth that brought conflict at home. At 17, feeling suffocated by rejection, she made a bold move. She joined the U.S. Navy, but military life only deepened her struggles. Living as male in such a rigid environment felt like wearing armor that was suffocating her soul. She eventually left the Navy, determined to live authentically. Angelica's journey of transition began with hormone therapy and, over time, medical procedures that aligned her body with her identity. She has often spoken about how liberating it felt to finally see her reflection in the mirror match the woman she always knew herself to be. But Angelica didn't stop at self-discovery. She turned her pain into power. Struggling to find steady employment as a trans woman, she taught herself coding and web development. This led her to found TransTech Social Enterprises, a company that trains and employs trans people in the tech industry. Her story is one of survival through innovation. Her acting career then soared. She appeared in hit shows like Pose and American Horror Story, becoming a household name. In these roles, she didn't just act. She embodied the resilience of trans women everywhere, giving visibility to a community long ignored. On the personal front, Angelica has kept her love life private, though she has revealed moments of heartbreak and betrayal that shaped her perspective. The suspense in her story lies in her incredible transformation, from a boy lost in Wisconsin's conservative world to a Navy recruit to one of Hollywood's most outspoken and talented Black transgender women. Number 5. Isis King. Isis King was assigned male at birth on October 1, 1985, in Prince George's County, Maryland. Growing up in a modest family, Isis lived with her mother and sister. Her childhood was marked by inner conflict. Born as a boy, yet constantly drawn to feminine clothing, mannerisms, and dreams. At school, she faced endless bullying, and at home, she often struggled to fit into the mold her family and community expected. In her teens, Isis found refuge in art and fashion. She studied design at the Art Institute of Philadelphia, a step that would bring her closer to her destiny. But survival was not easy. There was a period where she lived in New York's Ali Forney Center, a shelter for LGBTQ+ homeless youth. In those lonely nights, she prayed for a future where she could walk proudly as herself. Her transition began with hormone therapy, and over time she underwent gender-affirming surgery, openly sharing her journey with the world. Unlike many who kept their transitions private, Isis chose to live her truth on television. In 2008, she made history by joining America's Next Top Model, becoming the first openly transgender contestant on the show. The world suddenly saw not just a model, but a pioneer. Her visibility made her a role model. She went on to model for major brands, act in TV shows like When They See Us, and speak at LGBTQ+ events. Her beauty, confidence, and resilience captured headlines. But it was her courage to transition in front of millions that cemented her legacy. In her personal life, Isis has spoken candidly about dating struggles as a trans woman, but she has also revealed relationships that brought her joy and healing. She keeps details private, choosing instead to let her career and activism shine. The suspense in Isis's story lies in her bravery. A boy once without a home, bullied and doubted, transformed into a woman who walked the runway with the world watching. She turned rejection into applause, and in doing so, paved the way for countless others. Number 6. Janet Mock Annette Mock was assigned male at birth on March 10, 1983, in Honolulu, Hawaii. She grew up in a multicultural family. Her father, Charles, was African American, and her mother, Elizabeth, was of Hawaiian and Portuguese descent. Janet was the second of 5 children, raised between Hawaii and Oakland, California. From the outside, the world saw her as a boy, but Janet knew otherwise. Even as a child, she found herself longing to live as the girl she truly was, hiding her truth in silence. As a teenager, Janet's struggle deepened. She often spoke about sneaking into her mother's closet, trying on clothes in secret, and the bittersweet feeling of seeing herself reflected back as she dreamed. At just 15, she began hormone therapy, determined to align her body with her identity despite the risks. She saved money from doing sex work as a teen to afford her transition, including gender-affirming surgery in Thailand at the age of 18. For Janet, this was not just medical, it was survival. Her life took a dramatic turn when she embraced writing. After earning a master's degree in journalism from NYU, she worked as an editor at People magazine. But it was in 2011 that she publicly revealed her story in Marie Claire, and later in her groundbreaking memoir, Redefining Realness. These works not only made her famous, but also gave a voice to countless transgender people who had never seen their truth reflected in mainstream media. Janet's popularity soared as she became a writer, director, and producer for the hit show, Pose. She made history as one of the first trans women of color to write and direct episodes of television. In her personal life, Janet married photographer Aaron Treadwell in 2015, though they later divorced. She has also been linked to other partners, but she tends to keep her private life shielded from too much public glare. The suspense in Janet's story is undeniable. A child born male on the islands of Hawaii, carrying a secret so heavy it nearly crushed her, transformed into a global icon whose pen reshaped the narrative of trans women everywhere. Number 7. Amia Scott. Amia Scott was assigned male at birth on January 11, 1988, in New Orleans, Louisiana. Born into a close-knit Southern family, she grew up with parents who struggled to understand her truth. While her father envisioned a son who fit into traditional male roles, Amia gravitated toward makeup, fashion, and all things glamorous. As a child, she secretly tried on dresses and styled her hair, longing for the day when she could live freely as herself. By her teenage years, the pressure became unbearable. Amia has spoken about how she knew deep inside that she was a girl, even though the world insisted on calling her a boy. At just 17, she made a courageous decision. She transitioned publicly. With the support of close friends, she began hormone therapy and later underwent gender-affirming surgery. This made her one of the youngest known transgender women in the Southern LGBTQ+ community to live openly at that time. Her beauty, confidence, and style caught attention. She first gained recognition in the underground ballroom scene and through social media, where her photos went viral long before Instagram fame was common. Her popularity skyrocketed when she was cast on The Real Housewives of Atlanta, though she later left the show, saying she didn't want to be portrayed in a stereotypical or negative way. Her big break came when producer Lee Daniels selected her for the hit Fox series Star. Playing Cotton, a transgender character, Amia won fans for her authenticity and screen presence. She became one of the first Black trans actresses to star in a primetime network drama. In her personal life, Amia has been linked to several partners over the years, though she keeps much of her romantic world private. Fans adore her for her glamorous style, outspoken honesty, and unshakable courage. The suspense in Amia's story is cinematic. A boy born in conservative New Orleans who refused to hide transformed into a woman who walks red carpets, proving to the world that authenticity is the truest form of beauty. Number 8. India Moore. India Adriana Moore was assigned male at birth on January 17, 1995, in the Bronx, New York City. Their parents, Puerto Rican and Dominican by heritage, raised India in a strict and religious household. From a young age, India felt different. Born as a boy, yet never comfortable in the rigid expectations placed upon them. By age 14, conflict at home grew so intense that India left, entering foster care. Those years were filled with hardship, but they also built the resilience that would later define their rise. India's transition began in adolescence. Through hormone therapy and affirming care, they embraced life as a woman. Unlike many, India also identifies today as non-binary and transgender, preferring they/them pronouns. Yet they've been very open about the journey of being born male and living authentically beyond that binary. Modeling became their escape. Despite rejection for being too different, India pushed into the fashion world. Soon, top designers like Louis Vuitton and Dior booked them. Their striking beauty, with sharp features and magnetic eyes, set them apart. Then came the breakthrough role, Angel Evangelista in Pose. The world watched as India brought tenderness, strength, and sensuality to the screen, making them one of the most recognizable trans performers in Hollywood. Beyond acting, India has used their platform to speak boldly against injustice. From walking in the Met Gala to addressing LGBTQ+ rights at global events, they remind the world that beauty means nothing without purpose. In personal life, India has been linked romantically to dancer and activist Elijah. Though private, they've shared glimpses of love on social media. The suspense in India's story lies in survival. A child-born male in the Bronx, escaping a turbulent home, carving a path in foster care, and rising to international stardom. India transformed pain into power, proving that identity is not a cage, it's wings. Number 9. Tracy Norman, Tracy, Africa. Norman was assigned male at birth on February 25, 1952 in Newark, New Jersey. Born to a working-class African-American family, her parents hoped their son would follow a conventional path. But Tracy, from the earliest days, gravitated toward beauty, elegance, and the feminine. She secretly dreamed of being a model while battling the deep fear of rejection. As a teenager, she began experimenting with clothes, hair, and makeup. By her early 20s, Tracy had transitioned, socially, hormonally, and eventually with surgery, choosing to live fully as the woman she always knew she was. What made her story remarkable was how stealth she became. The fashion world saw her only as Tracy, never knowing she had been born male. In the 1970s, Tracy entered modeling with a bang. She was discovered at a photo shoot with Clairol, and her stunning look earned her a contract. Soon, she was appearing on product boxes, magazine covers, and strutting down runways. For years, she modeled in stealth, keeping her trans identity a closely guarded secret in an industry that would have shut its doors instantly. The suspense of her story turned dramatic in the late 80s when a makeup artist allegedly outed her during a shoot. Almost overnight, the glamorous career she had built began to crumble. Tracy retreated from the spotlight, her name fading from the industry that once celebrated her. But destiny wasn't done with her yet. Decades later, in 2016, Clairol brought her back for a major campaign, openly celebrating her as a trailblazer, the first black trans woman to model for a global beauty brand. This full-circle moment cemented her place in history. On a personal note, Tracy has kept her relationships private, though she has spoken about the loneliness of living in secrecy. The most gripping part of her story is how she fooled an entire industry. Not out of malice, but for survival. A boy born in Newark became a woman who once walked fashion's biggest stages in silence, only to return years later with her truth shining brighter than ever. Number 10. Giselle Barbie Royale. Giselle Barbie Royale was assigned male at birth on August 8, 1987, in Orlando, Florida. Raised in the American South, she grew up in a world that often left little room for difference. Her family loved her, but as a child, Giselle struggled to fit into the mold of boyhood that was expected of her. While other boys played sports, she was captivated by music, fashion, and dance. Behind closed doors, she dreamed of being the glamorous woman she felt inside. Her teenage years were marked by courage. Determined to live authentically, Giselle began her transition with hormone therapy, embracing her womanhood step by step. Over time, she also underwent surgical procedures that helped align her outer body with her inner truth. The process was not only physical, it was emotional, filled with moments of rejection and resilience. Giselle's rise to fame came through the pageant world. Her confidence, charisma, and beauty lit up stages across the United States. But in 2019, she made history on the global stage by winning Miss International Queen in Thailand, the world's largest transgender beauty pageant. She became the first black woman and only the second American to ever claim the crown. That victory transformed her from a local performer into an international icon. Outside of pageants, Giselle is known as a talented performer and nightclub entertainer. Her shows combine high-energy dance, glamour, and storytelling, earning her fans across continents. She is also a strong advocate for LGBTQ+ rights, particularly for Black trans women, using her platform to highlight issues of discrimination and equality. In her personal life, Giselle has kept her relationships relatively private, though she has been open about the challenges of dating as a trans woman. What adds suspense to her journey is the transformation itself. A boy born in Orlando's conservative South who refused to live in silence, rising to the stage in sparkling gowns and claiming a crown the world once thought was out of her reach. Number 11. Hari Jones. Jari Jones was assigned male at birth on May 29, 1991, in New York City. Growing up in Harlem, Jari's parents raised their son in a working-class Black household filled with love but also expectations. From an early age, Jari wrestled with identity, drawn to performance, fashion, and femininity, yet pressured to conform to the role of a boy. That tension shaped her adolescence and planted the seeds of the fearless woman she would one day become. During her teen years, Jari began transitioning, both socially and medically. Hormone therapy helped her embrace her womanhood, and later surgeries allowed her to align her outer appearance with the truth she always felt inside. Unlike many who hid, Hari chose to be bold and visible. She wanted the world to see a Black trans woman who was unapologetically herself. Her big break came not on a runway, but behind the scenes. Jari worked as an actress, model, and creative, pushing for inclusivity in entertainment. In 2020, she exploded into global headlines as one of the faces of Calvin Klein's Pride campaign. The billboards of Times Square featured her in all her curvy, radiant glory, an image the fashion world had rarely seen. A plus-size Black trans woman celebrated at the very center of mainstream advertising. Jari is also a filmmaker and activist, dedicated to creating opportunities for marginalized voices. She co-produced the film Port Authority, which premiered at Cannes, making history as one of the first major films with a Black trans woman in a leading role. In her personal life, Jari has openly shared her relationship with actor and model Corey Kempster. Together, they've become symbols of love beyond labels, proudly sharing their bond online. The suspense in Jari's story is transformation and triumph. A Harlem-born boy expected to fit into a box, who instead shattered it completely. Rising as a model, filmmaker, and activist, plastered across skyscrapers in New York. Her journey proves that the most powerful beauty is truth lived loudly. Number 12. Shay Diamond. Shay Diamond was assigned male at birth on March 17, 1978, in Little Rock, Arkansas. Growing up in a deeply religious household, her parents and community expected her to embody the role of son. But inside, Shay always felt different. She gravitated toward feminine expression, often facing ridicule and misunderstanding. By her teens, she knew she was a woman, even if the world wasn't ready to accept her truth. Her early life was turbulent. In search of survival and belonging, Shay ended up struggling financially. Desperate to fund her transition, she made the fateful decision to commit armed robbery. That choice landed her behind bars for nearly a decade. Prison could have broken her, but instead, it became the unlikely birthplace of her voice. Behind those cold concrete walls, Shay wrote songs that told her story. Her music carried pain, hope, and resilience. Songs about identity, freedom, and the right to exist. One of those songs, I Am Her, became an anthem for the trans community years later. Even while locked away, Shay refused to let her spirit be caged. After her release, she began transitioning medically and socially, stepping fully into her womanhood. Hormones and surgeries were part of her path, but even more powerful was her embrace of authenticity. Music soon became her stage of rebirth. With raw soul and gospel roots, she gained attention from legends like Justin Tranter and even earned praise from icons such as Demi Lovato. Shay's popularity soared as she became not just a singer, but also an activist. She performed at Pride, events worldwide, speaking openly about the challenges of being a Black trans woman in America. Her honesty about incarceration and survival made her story even more gripping. In her personal life, Shay has kept romantic details private, but she often shares that her greatest love story is the journey of reclaiming herself. The suspense of her life rests in her transformation, from a boy in Arkansas to a prisoner writing secret songs, and finally to a celebrated Black trans woman whose voice now rings with freedom across the world. Number 13. Miss Major, Miss Major. Griffin Gracie, lovingly known as Miss Major, was assigned male at birth in Chicago in 1940. Born into a world of strict gender roles, her parents raised her as their son. But young Miss Major always felt a deep, unshakable truth: that she was a girl. This inner knowing clashed with her family's expectations, leading to years of rejection, loneliness, and the painful struggle of living in a body that didn't align with her identity. As a teenager, she began her transition socially, embracing feminine expression even in the face of hostility. Over time, she accessed hormone therapy and medical care to affirm her gender, though in the 1960s, this was far more dangerous and stigmatized than today. Her bravery came with consequences. She faced homelessness, police harassment, and violence. Yet each obstacle forged her into the fierce leader she would become. Miss Major's name is forever tied to history because she was present at the Stonewall riots of 1969, the uprising that ignited the modern LGBTQ+ rights movement. While many narratives erased trans women of color, she was there on the front lines, resisting police brutality and demanding freedom. This moment cemented her role as a warrior for her community. Her activism extended for decades, particularly advocating for incarcerated trans women, sex workers, and those living with HIV/AIDS. Having herself spent time in prison, she deeply understood the violence and discrimination trans people face behind bars. She dedicated her life to ensuring they were not forgotten. In her personal life, Miss Major found love later in her journey. She has spoken openly about her partner, Tori, and the joy of becoming a parent in her 70s, a powerful reminder that love and family can bloom at any stage of life. The suspense of Miss Major's story lies in survival itself. Born as a son in 1940s Chicago, she defied a world that tried to erase her. From Stonewall to motherhood, from prison cells to global stages, she transformed pain into activism, making her one of the most revered Black trans women in history. Number 14. Reyna Gossett. Reyna Gossett was assigned male at birth in New York City in 1983. Raised in a working-class Black family, her parents and community expected her to grow up as their son. But deep inside, Reyna always felt a different truth stirring. Childhood was a quiet struggle between who she was told to be and who she knew she was. Like many trans women, she carried her secret through years of silence until the world was finally ready to hear her voice. In her 20s, Reyna began her transition both socially and medically, embracing hormones and later surgeries that allowed her outward appearance to match her inner identity. She blossomed into a woman, but more importantly, into a storyteller who understood the importance of history, especially the history of people like her who had long been erased. Reyna rose to prominence as a filmmaker, writer, and activist, with a passion for uncovering the stories of Black and brown trans women who fought for liberation. She became known for her research into figures such as Sylvia Rivera and Marsha P. Johnson, key players in the Stonewall uprising whose roles had often been diminished in mainstream accounts. Her most talked-about moment came when she co-created a short film about Marsha P. Johnson, only to see Netflix release The Death and Life of Marsha P. Johnson, which she accused of taking her ideas without credit. This controversy pushed Reyna further into the spotlight, making her not only a historian, but also a living example of how trans women of color are still sidelined in their own stories. Personally, Raina has kept much of her romantic life private, choosing instead to let her activism speak. She is deeply respected within queer communities for her work at the Sylvia Rivera Law Project, where she fought for prison abolition and trans justice. The suspense of Raina's story is this. Born a son in New York, she transitioned not only her gender, but also the very way history is told, turning silence into recognition and invisibility into visibility. Her life proves that reclaiming the past is itself an act of revolution. Number 15. Lourdes Ashley. Hunter. Lourdes Ashley. Hunter was assigned male at birth in Detroit, Michigan during the early 1980s. Raised in a working-class black family, her parents initially saw her as their son. But Lourdes always felt a sense of difference, an inner whisper that told her she wasn't who the world claimed she was. Childhood came with confusion, rejection, and the heavy weight of hiding her truth. As she grew older, Lourdes embraced her transition socially and medically. Hormone therapy allowed her body to align with her identity, and she boldly stepped forward as the woman she always knew herself to be. The transformation was not only physical, but spiritual, a reclamation of dignity, pride, and survival. Her rise to recognition came not through Hollywood or music, but through fierce activism and leadership. Lourdes is the founder and executive director of the Trans Women of Color Collective, TWOCC, an organization dedicated to supporting and uplifting trans and gender non-conforming people of color. Through this work, she became one of the most respected voices in the fight for trans rights, racial justice, and economic equality. Her advocacy often highlights the dangers trans women of color face: poverty, violence, and criminalization, and she speaks from lived experience. Having faced homelessness and systemic discrimination herself, Lourdes transformed personal struggle into a platform for change. While she has kept her romantic life largely private, Lourdes often says her family is the community she builds through her activism. That love fuels her mission. What makes her story suspenseful is the arc of transformation. Born into a world that saw her as a boy, she not only transitioned into womanhood, but also into a global leader. From silence and invisibility, she rose to stand before the United Nations, demanding justice for trans people worldwide. Her name now symbolizes resilience, courage, and the unstoppable power of truth.